In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your rear caliper on your Ford Focus. It's located behind your rear wheel. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to remove our wheel. We're going to press our brake pedal down and hold it there with a pry bar. You're going to want to do this anytime you do hydraulics on your vehicle, and that'll just make sure that you preserve as much brake fluid as possible so it doesn't drip all over the place too. Remove the spring clip with a pair of wire cutters. You can also use a pry bar. Set that aside. And now we're going to remove our emergency brake cable. We're going to use a pair of wire cutters. Pull it out and past its lever here. So grab onto this head when you're doing it, not the cable. Remove the cable from its housing. Set it aside. Remove these caps to access the slide pins. And we're going to remove the slide pins and disconnect the top part of the caliper. Using a 7mm Allen wrench, I'm going to take out these pins. I'm going to loosen both at the same time, and then we'll take them out. Sometimes the pins don't want to come out, so you got to kind of put some tension on it to pull it out. So to do that, you just push down on the pin as you're pulling it out. I'm just going to leave them in there. Now we're going to pry off the top part of the caliper. I'm using a pry bar. Make sure you have a bungee cord ready or a caliper hanger, and don't let your brake pads fall. Remove your pads if you need to. Set them aside. I'm just going to tie this up on my shock, like that. Strap your caliper up on top of your rotor to be able to get to the 2 bolts to remove the bracket. I'm using a 13mm and an extension to remove these 2 bolts. You can probably take it out by hand once you break it loose. Get the other one. Again, take it out by hand so you don't get jammed up against the spring. remove your bracket. We're going to take the caps off our slide pins. Now you can open this up by just separating out the two things and checking to make sure everything's lubricated. That's one way of doing it, but since we are putting this on the vehicle separated, I'm going to separate it. I'm going to put this back. And I'm going to break these free so we can take out the slides. I'm going to use a pry bar on the other end just to hold it still. Now that you've broken them free, you're going to remove the pins. Definitely seems like this caliper needs a little bit more silicone paste in there. That's why we check before we install. So I'm going to add some to both pins and put them through and make sure there's plenty in there. You want these to slide pretty freely. Just like that. You also want to put a little silicone paste here where the brake pads live. Not a ton, just a tiny bit. I usually just finger paint it on. And now let's install the bracket onto the vehicle. Let's put our bracket on. Let's start my bolts. If you feel like you need to hold your rotor still, you can put a lug nut on the front. Just hold it there. Our rotor's behaving, so I'm just going to leave it. All right, get that bolt started. Do the same on the bottom. Tighten these up. And we'll torque those to 52 foot-pounds. I'm going to put a lug nut on so I don't lose my rotor. That'll just help hold it in place because we're going to be loosening our hose on top of the rotor. I want to just keep it still. Even though this bracket is here, I still want to just keep it as still as possible. So that's nice and still. I'm going to put a pry bar in here just to hold things still. And then I'm going to use a 14mm line wrench on my hose to loosen it. Break your hose free. And then you're going to have to unhook your top of the caliper here and have a drip pan below if you don't already have one. And we're going to unscrew our hose from the caliper. Try not to kink the hose. You will lose some brake fluid, but if you did the pry bar on the brake pedal, you're not going to lose all of your brake fluid, and it will stop dripping eventually. So now we're going to put our hose on our caliper. I removed the plug first, and now we're going to screw the caliper onto the hose. Make sure you're holding it here and not here. Once you feel like you're tight, you're going to install your pads. Install your pads. The one with this spring clip is on the inside, and the other one goes on the out. Now you can slide your caliper on. Make sure your slide bolts are not in the way. And make sure that the spring clip is on either side in this window that you have for the caliper. Start your pins. We're going to torque these to 21 foot-pounds. Let's put our caps on. Install our emergency brake cable. Let's push this cable through the housing on the caliper. And now we're going to lock our cable into our mechanism on the caliper. Use wire cutters to hold on to that tip and pull it through. So you're going to spring it forward to allow for enough slack, and then you're going to pull it towards you, and that'll lock it in. Just make sure your hose is nice and tight after you have the top of the caliper on. Now that the caliper is stable, it's easier to tighten down. Attach your spring clip here into you're going to push it into this hole, and then you're going to push the other side in, and then you're going to make sure these are where they are in the ears. And now we're going to take our lug nut off. Now let's do a gravity bleed. Now that we are done doing our hydraulic work, we're going to take our pry bar out. We're going to pump it up. And we're going to do a gravity bleed. Let's take the cap off, our bleeder screw, and start our gravity bleed. We've already taken our pry bar off the pedal, and we've pumped up the pedal a few times, so we're ready to go. Using a 10mm wrench, we're going to crack open our bleeder screw, and we're going to wait for a steady stream of brake fluid or a steady drip. We're going to look for air bubbles coming out. It could take a minute. Once you see a pretty steady stream like this and no more air bubbles, It probably means all the air is gone. So you can tighten that bleeder screw up. Clean off the area. And put your cap on. Now what you're going to do is get in your vehicle and test out the brake pedal. If it feels squishy, then that means you need to do a full brake bleed procedure. If it feels nice and hard and at the top, you're probably good to go. Take a test drive, see how it feels. Put your wheel back on. Keep your hand on it. Start your lug nuts. We're going to tighten up our lug nuts in a star-like pattern. Start with the bottom one and walk your wheel in. Now you can torque them. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to be torquing our wheels to 100 foot-pounds. We're going to do that in a star-like pattern. You're going to want to clean and inspect the cap. Unscrew it. This says .4 fluid. Always look at your recommended fluid, either in your manual or on top of the cap. You're going to use a siphon of some sort or a suction thing to take out the old brake fluid. Make sure you have a pan to catch all the fluid. Keep doing this until it's empty, or getting as much as possible. Once you're done, you're going to put clean brake fluid in. Set your pan aside. Top it off. Make sure you fill it to max. Once you're there, you put your cap back on. When we bleed our brakes, it's going to be the right rear wheel first, then the left rear, then the right front, and then the left front. So now we're going to bleed our brakes. We're going to take the cap off our bleeder screw. And it's good to have a friend inside helping you out. You're going to ask him to pump it up. Make sure you have something underneath to either catch the fluid or use something like this that you can put directly onto the bleeder to catch your fluid. He's holding, and I'm going to loosen this bleeder screw with a 10mm wrench. It's to the floor. I'm going to close it down. And as we're watching the fluid go in, you want to make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Sooner or later, that'll happen. Pump it up. He's holding. It's to the floor. Pump it up one more time. That looks pretty good. And you can close it down, tighten it. Clean it off. And put your cap back on. Now we're going to go to our left rear. When you top it off, you want to make sure you hit where it says max on the side of the master cylinder. Once you're there, you put your cap back on. All right, here we are at our right front. We've topped off our master cylinder, put the cap back on, and now we're going to bleed our right front. Take off your cap. Get your wrench ready, 9mm for the front. Get your drain bucket ready or your fluid catcher. And your friends in the car, pump it up. He's holding. Open it up. He's holding. Just to the floor. Pump it up. He's holding. Pump it up. All right, we're going to clean it off, and then we're going to go to the other side and the front, the left front. Let's clean this off, put the cap on. And go to the left front. Top it off. Make sure you fill it to max.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.